Hey, I'm Prasad. Most teams building what they call AI agents are really just wrapping GPT-4 or Claude in a Python script with hard-coded prompts. That's not an agent. That's a workflow with a language model bolted on. The distinction matters far more than most engineering leaders realize because we're about to spend billions building infrastructure for the wrong abstraction. Here's the pattern I keep seeing. A team ships something they label agentic. It works fine in demos, then it fails in production. The postmortem reveals what everyone quietly suspected. There was no agent architecture, no persistent state, no dynamic planning, no real autonomy, just a deterministic workflow that happened to include an LLM call. When you can't tell the difference between automation and agency, you underinvest in the control planes, observability, and governance that actual autonomous systems demand. So, what actually separates a real agent from a dressed up workflow? A workflow orchestrator like Temporal or Apache Airflow executes predetermined steps. It might branch on conditions, but every path is known at design time. Adding an LLM to choose which function to call doesn't change that fundamental constraint. You've added natural language parsing, not autonomy. Even LangGraph, which lets you define state machines, where an LLM selects transitions, still operates within boundaries you've explicitly programmed. The system can't discover new states, modify its own objectives, or reason about resource constraints on its own. Useful, absolutely, but it's not agency. Real agent architecture demands something different. The system needs persistent state management across sessions, learning from interactions, building internal models over time. It needs dynamic goal decomposition, where it can break down novel objectives it hasn't encountered before, and it needs resource awareness, reasoning about compute budgets, API rate limits, and time constraints without you hard coding every guardrail. This is where most teams get it wrong. I've watched the gap between workflow thinking and agent thinking destroy projects at 3 different Fortune 500 companies in the past year alone. The practical takeaway is simple. Before your team writes another line of code on anything labeled agentic, run this test. Can your system handle a goal it wasn't explicitly designed for? Can it maintain and update its own context across sessions without manual resets? Can it reason about whether it should even attempt a task given current constraints? If the answer to all 3 is no, you're building a workflow, and that's perfectly fine. Workflows are valuable, but call it what it is, architect it accordingly, and save the agent infrastructure investment for when you're genuinely ready to build systems that operate with real autonomy. Full analysis is on jprasad.com. I'll see you on the next one.